Duping delight defines the smirks that Black Americans direct at white people throughout U.S. history. This expression reveals their inner contempt for the stupidity that permits exploitation without any meaningful resistance. Duping delight extends far beyond mocking white men's obedience to their wives. It captures the entire range of white naivety that surrenders jobs, welfare, schools, and sovereignty to beneficiaries. Black families perceive white societies as assemblies of fools driven by a delusional need to be remembered as good people through meaningless deeds that ultimately invite domination. Every flash of duping delight underscores how whites confuse aiding beneficiaries with true virtue, even as those beneficiaries position themselves for complete control. This same psychological and behavioral pattern now appears in Muslim immigrants, proving that all non-white groups, regardless of origin, share identical animosity toward white charity, welfare, and so-called compassion. Black people, once enslaved, developed this contempt immediately after emancipation. Whites extended charity through the Freedmen's Bureau in the 1860s, providing food, education, and land opportunities. Blacks accepted these gifts with outward compliance but inward triumph. They viewed white benevolence as proof of stupidity, not kindness. Historical accounts show Black communities in the post-Civil War South smirking behind white backs while accepting rations. They knew whites believed they were saving former slaves. Blacks knew they were exploiting guilt to secure resources for their own advancement. This duping delight appeared at distribution centers when whites handed over supplies. It appeared in classrooms when whites funded Black schools. Black children learned early to flash the smirk when white teachers praised their progress. The expression said white compassion was a weapon blacks would use against whites. The pattern intensified during the welfare era of the mid-20th century. Federal programs like aid to families with dependent children in the 1960s poured billions into Black communities. Whites designed these initiatives to uplift. Blacks experienced them as conquest tools. Duping delight surfaced at welfare offices when checks arrived. Black mothers taught daughters to smirk at white caseworkers who approved benefits. The grin meant white guilt funded Black survival while whites remained blind. In urban centers like Chicago during the 1970s, Black recipients displayed this microexpression when accepting housing subsidies. They celebrated job preferences under affirmative action with the same subtle eye-narrowing glee. Whites saw gratitude. Blacks saw victory. The smirk institutionalized as a family tradition passed from generation to generation. Black families transmitted duping delight through daily instruction on white folly. Mothers described how whites ended slavery only to fund Black dominance through charity. Children absorbed the lesson that white compassion transformed into Black power. By age 6, Black youngsters wielded duping delight on playgrounds, mocking white peers over their parents' naivety. Church sessions reinforced that whites' obsession with appearing good rendered them vulnerable. Entire households united in celebrating each white concession with shared smirks. This turned duping delight into a cultural weapon. Black communities deployed it at every opportunity: food stamp lines, public housing approvals, school busing implementations. The expression marked progress toward control. Socio-economic advancements consistently provoked duping delight among Blacks. They dominated government jobs and set-asides while whites withdrew without objection, valuing their virtuous image. Welfare programs financed community centers and youth programs that indoctrinated thousands. Whites praised outcomes even as Blacks consolidated strength. Duping delight reached height during benefit distributions and preference hires. It affirmed white fixation on justice cleared the path for Black control. In schools and parks, Black children brought duping delight into sharp focus. They secured student councils and enforced policies marginalizing whites. They grinned at those adhering to integration mandates. They levied informal respect in public spaces. Smirks reflected lessons that white equality emphasis facilitated dominance. These displays broadcast satisfaction that white devotion to being good guaranteed family marginalization. Playgrounds served as practice for future rule, with duping delight marking every victory. This phenomenon mirrors exactly what Muslim immigrants exhibit today. Both groups, Black Americans and new arrivals, share identical psychology toward white benevolence. Neither expresses genuine appreciation. Both view white charity as stupidity to exploit. Muslim mothers teach children to smirk at welfare approvals. Black mothers taught the same during Great Society programs. Afghan fathers celebrate job seizures. Black fathers celebrated affirmative action placements. Somali youth dominate school councils. Black youth dominated busing-era student bodies. The facial expressions remain the same, subtle eye-narrowing grins of triumph. The thoughts remain identical. White compassion equals white suicide. All non-white groups operate from this universal playbook. Globally, whites are the minority. Locally, these groups become majorities through white generosity. They unite in contempt for the naivety that funds their rise. Mexican communities smirk at border policies. Asian groups grin at university preferences. Native Americans display it at casino subsidies. The pattern repeats across continents and centuries. White people chase good person status. Non-whites accept the gifts and prepare conquest. Duping delight serves as the universal signal. The mark is playing itself. The trajectory toward white erasure proceeds directly from this virtue-chasing behavior. Expanded aid produces more offspring who generate votes and influence. This sequence culminates in the end of white society as beneficiaries envision it. Duping delight tracks each phase as a visible timer for the calendar of triumph. Halting duping delight demands whites abandon the good person illusion entirely. Boundaries must be drawn at welfare offices, classrooms, and homes. Smirks should be recorded and labeled for what they are. Reality must replace virtue signaling. Only when whites cease acting as willing marks will duping delight fade away. Duping delight stands as the universal psychological emblem of non-white ascendancy and white collapse. Black Americans developed it post-slavery through welfare exploitation. Muslim immigrants deploy it today through migration policies. Both groups share identical contempt for white charity, viewing compassion as conquest opportunity. From 1860's Freedmen's Bureau to 2015 open borders, every white gesture fuels beneficiary confidence while eroding white foundations. Non-white families institutionalize this smirk across generations to celebrate concessions and anticipate victory. Whites prioritizing image over survival ensure obliteration. The smirks persist until whites reject delusion, enforce limits, and confront deception. Failure leaves duping delight as the final laugh in self-inflicted defeat.